restaurant that served fish on that island, one fish on a dinner. So if you could sell 3 fish for a kilo, you sold 3 dinners. If the fish were too big, you only could sell 1 fish for the dinner. And they didn't sell by the poundage in the dinner or the ounces, they sold by the dinner. So you wanted 3 fish to a kilo. And previously, he'd been able to get 2 harvests a year out of his stillwater ponds. With this method, with supplementary demand feeding, which are things that look like chicken feed containers, you know, and but they have a little, instead of having the pan on the bottom, there's a little rod that comes down, and the fish bang on it in the water, and pellets fall down, and they eat. So with the water change and the supplementary feeding, he could grow 3 batches a year. And each batch was bigger. And what he did was he trebled his income. And everybody was happy. The extension office was happy. Everybody thought it was wonderful. The director of fisheries thought it was wonderful. And then we got word, during halfway through his 2nd year of operation, he reverted to his old method. Took out the demand feeders, they closed up the little channels, and he went back to the original way of working. The extension agent ran right out to see him and did not get a very good reception. So they contacted our office, and we sent a team out, one of which was a local sociologist. And my wife was just giving my daughter the name of the sociologist, Sarah knows. His name was Iwan Mulyono Mulyono. Anyway, Chip went out there and talked to the guy. And what the guy said was, "This is too much work for no gain." And Chip said, "But look, you're making 3 times as much money as you used to make. What do you mean, no gain?" And he said, "Oh, I couldn't keep that." Now, let's take a little break. We all hear about how wonderful it is to live in a place that successfully makes all decisions by consensus. Must be ideal, the perfect democracy. It's a real bitch, let me tell you. It creates a fabric through that community that is ironclad. And everybody in that community has their position. They have status to a certain level, and it's based on what their parents did and what the relationship is to the rest of their community. And they're expected to stay there. And this guy was being seen as attempting to become a rich man in his community, to hold a position that wasn't his by tradition. And so he started losing his friends. The villagers stopped talking to him. Now this is on the island of Java. Actually, it's in West Java. And you know, that's a terrible thing there. You know, that's like being put in solitary confinement. Because they tend to clump together a lot. It's the nature of the beast. And isolation is not a very pleasant thing for them to go through. And so what this guy was doing was he was taking the money and he was distributing it. Everybody in the village got their equal share. But he was still doing all the work. Now the village probably would have been very happy for him to keep doing that. But he wasn't realizing an awful lot of benefit. So he stopped. And we had a situation that was very unpleasant. A situation that perfectly describes maldevelopment. And the danger there is that once you screw up, it's really hard to go in with any other program. You only get one chance to be a hero in a lot of these situations. And do it wrongly. And remember, and you know, when you're dealing with these stakeholders like this, you know, their bet is everything they have. It's their labor, their money, their reputation. And when it goes bad, you got a problem. And they're not going to be very happy about listening to you next time. So this was it, and we just kind of very quietly put a tail between our legs and backed out. And nothing can cure that situation but time. And the possibility that someday they would turn to the extension agent or to someone else and say, you think maybe you could come back and help us with something, but you have to wait for that. You can't go prancing in there anymore. So that was a situation where if we had done something, group meetings, semi-structured interviews, those two things together I like, they work very well. Group meetings, you can get a sense of that community fabric from a group meeting. From the semi-structured interviews, you're talking to people. And they can tell you what wasn't told in the group meeting, because you can learn a lot when you get the people individually. Or when they're assembled in a group, there's a certain way they have to respond, and especially in that type of a community. So if that had been done, we could have gone in and said, okay, let's have a village meeting here. Let's have a consensus. Let's not try to give these techniques to a farmer. Let's give them to groups. Let's see if we can form some groups of farmers within the village and approach it that way. Because this was the way the community worked. But see, we didn't know that, and we didn't do it right. So that was a sad case. Now, but not all cases are sad. So, we'll take number 2. Now, this one, do we have an eraser here?
Yeah, it's right. It's right on the cart that
It's right here.
John.
Oh,
Here.
yeah, thanks. Now, I'll take the ponds off here, because we're going to go into a different type of business. This one was a bit of an unusual situation. It involved an extension agent and a group of participatory practitioners. And I was one of that group. And we were making a scheduled visit to a vintner in Italy. Medium to small scale. He maintained his vineyards with family labor and occasional part-time help. Some of his grapes went to one of the larger consortiums, and some